Hey everybody, David Swor here once again with DJ Cox for our Frenemies podcast. And listen, if you've made it this far with us, you're a true baseball fan. So we appreciate all the viewers. DJ, how we been doing lately? I haven't checked the viewership at all.
We're not doing too bad. Our Cubs one's about to go over the 100 mark, which I'm excited about. That'll be our biggest one. We got some 70s, we got some 60s. We got a few teams that have zero interest, but overall, man, if you would have told me that 100 people watch this podcast, about 70 on some of these teams, I'm pretty happy about that. So we're doing pretty well so far.
That's awesome. So honestly, this podcast right here ought to get a lot of viewers because this right here is an interesting team. So we're going to talk today about the San Diego Padres. And DJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about 2019?
Yes, sir. You got it. Andy Green was their coach last year. Yeah. No, okay. Now we're gonna fight. Okay, now we're gonna fight.
Is that your boy?
This is good. We're gonna start with a fight. I love it. Okay.
Yes.
I love. What do you not like about him?
DJ, he lost his team, buddy. He had a super talented team, 45-45 at the All-Star break. They start bringing these guys up, things start clicking, and he completely lost control. How do you do that, man?
Well, he is now the right-hand man of David Ross on the Cubs.
Well, hey, I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm just saying he obviously couldn't handle the pressure of bringing up these stars, man.
To his defense, they were not a playoff team last year, no matter who was managing them.
DJ, 25-47 the second half. 25-47. Come on, man. Fernando Tatis is your shortstop. You're 25-47. You got the best farm system in baseball. You got some good players out there. Not in every position. Machado's over there at third, one of the top players in the game. You can't go 25-47, man. Come on.
I'm not a fan of that pitching staff last year, and I don't know how you don't go 25-47 down the stretch with those starters that they had. So I don't know, man. They only had one guy last year with a winning record, and that was Chris Paddock. He was 9-7 with a 3.33 ERA, and the rest of those guys were terrible. They were brutal. Kirby Yates was awesome, 41 saves, outstanding 1.19 ERA, man. That is nasty. Tatis emerged. I am a huge Fernando Tatis Jr. fan. Just electric is a good word for him, I think. He comes on the scene last year. I don't know of many players that are more fun to watch than him, to be honest with you. Just the way that he plays the game, goes all out 100%. I'm extremely excited for him. And I know he ended the season last year with an injury, but, man, is he going to be legit. So it was nice for the Padres from that perspective of getting him up. I believe he's already a top 5 NL shortstop. And I think he could emerge as the number one in a few years. I think he's that good. I really do. Sky is the limit for that guy. They did finish in last place. They were terrible. There's no doubt about it.
Hold up. They finished below the Rockies?
They finished below the Rockies last year. That stretch of run you were talking about, they were bad.
Andy Green? Andy Green?
With Andy Green, they lost all those games.
Well, all right, DJ. So they had a really interesting offseason. They did a lot of trading, a lot of moving around. And you mentioned their pitching last year as their biggest weakness. I'm not so sure that that's right. So I was looking over. They were 28th out of 30 teams in batting average last year. They were struck out 26.7% of the time. And so this offseason, it's obvious their GM, which I believe is A.J. Preller, looked over the situation and said, hey, we need a change. So they brought in some interesting guys, and they traded away some interesting guys. They traded Hunter Renfroe, who hit I don't know, 30 or 40 bombs last year. Still a pretty young player. But in his place, they brought in Tommy Pham, who's a good hitter, definitely strikes out a lot less. So who do you think was their biggest addition this year?
So, to be honest with you, I'm going to go in a different direction on that and go with Pomeranz. And I know Pomeranz is like this. I get it, man. He's a roller coaster ride. But, man, if you got a Drew Pomeranz who was pitching it like he was at the end of the season for the Brewers last year, if you got him and Kirby Yates at the end of the games, holy smokes, David. I mean, you're done. Like, you got no shot if those two are on. And what a big addition that is, and what a way to go with this team. They can contend if they got a bullpen like that. You know, I know their starters are a little iffy, but if they keep you somewhat in it and you score runs late and these guys are coming into the ball game, you're done. If Pomeranz is on, he's one of the best lefty relievers in the game. I really believe that. I know the numbers don't really show it, but when you see he's got his stuff, he's nasty, man. And I think it was a great kind of under the radar move a little bit for them. Getting him, and I'm going to go with Tommy Pham as a close second because I like him too a lot. But I think more or less they kind of just replaced him with Renfroe is kind of what you said. So I don't think that was too much of an upgrade. But getting a guy like Pomeranz, I think, is definitely their key addition. They got Zach Davies, Emilio Pagan, Pierce Johnson, Jared Eichhoff, Jerkson Profar, Trent Grisham, and Tommy Pham. So, yeah, I'm going to definitely go with Pomeranz. What about you?
I love Pomeranz, and I'm going to tell you what else. I love Pagan too. Their bullpen's nasty.
Yeah.
It is extremely nasty. Craig Stamen, who they re-signed this year, he's a stud, man.
Yeah.
And so their bullpen it's deep. And so, you could go several different directions, but I'm going to stick with Pham as their biggest addition. I think getting Pham on paper probably looks like a sideways move, but I think this is more about changing the approach. They traded away Franmil Reyes last year. They've traded Renfroe now. Both those guys are big power guys, but they're big strikeout guys too. And as a Yankee fan, a lot of those 2000s teams were big home run hitting teams, and that's fun to watch. But sometimes you just need to smack the right field, or just to move a runner over or whatever. And I think that was kind of a shrewd move, to be honest with you. Some of these other trades I don't love. Jerkson Profar, I'm not a fan. He's really – I mean, he's hit some home runs and, he's had some decent seasons. But overall, he's been a pretty huge disappointment. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later as well. But for their biggest addition, I will have to go with Pham. So who did they lose this year, DJ?
So Eric Lauer, Hunter Renfroe, Carl Edwards Jr., Ian Kinsler, and Luis Urias. And I'm gonna give a little love, and this is not their biggest loss because he kind of fell off the table. But Ian Kinsler, man, he retired this year, or at the end of last year, I should say. And David, I kind of dare you to give me a more beautiful swing than Ian Kinsler's right-handed swing, man. Holy smokes. Like when you see him swing a bat, it's just pure. It's so mechanical. It's like everything that I dream of as far as building a player from scratch, from the right-handed box and taking a swing. Ian Kinsler, man, that batting stance and that swing of his was something that I'll never forget, to be honest with you. I believe in the full swing, and he's the full swing to the fullest, and he just completely took a hack at it, and within himself too. He wasn't just up there just going crazy, but what a beautiful swing. What a good career he had. Definitely props to him. Obviously, he was towards the tail end of his career there and getting injured a ton. So he's battling a lot of things there. But big props to him. But definitely I think it's Renfroe. Renfroe, I know that we've talked about Renfroe already before, and he's a little bit of a tough guy because to figure out, because he gives you the 30, 40 homers every year, but his average is terrible. So he's one of those guys, and you just don't know how much you're going to miss a guy like that, guy that provides the ribbies but will not come through a lot for you, isn't very clutch. So of those guys, for sure, I think it's Renfroe. Not too much else there is going to hurt them, but big props to Ian Kinsler. What about you, David?
Yeah, I'm a big Ian Kinsler fan as well. Had injuries not tackled him the way they did, I think we're talking about a Hall of Famer. Wins above replacement, 55.7. 60 seems to be the bottom level for the Hall of Fame. 257 homers from your second base position. There was definitely a time when he was one of the more feared hitters, definitely, top 2, 3, 4 second baseman in the league for quite a while. 909 RBIs, 243 stolen bases. He was pretty close to a 2020 player every year for several years there. And so, man, I'm like you. I love Ian Kinsler, good veteran leadership. I hated to see him go. I kept hoping with this young team that he could kind of ride the team. So I'm like you, props to him. And, from the guys they lost, I guess you'd have to say Renfroe. I'm not a big fan of one-dimensional players. Renfroe wasn't a great fielder, but he was good for 30 or 40 bombs, and so I got to hand him that. But I think that we'll be surprised at how much the Padres upgraded by getting Pham from the Rays. I think that was, again, a shrewd move, but I'll have to go with Renfroe. So let's talk a little bit about 2020. For full disclosure, we're 10 games into the season, and the Padres right now are sitting either in second or third place. They're 7-4, if I remember correctly. So, DJ, tell us what you think the biggest strength of the 2020 team is.
So I'm going to go with all the young talent that they've got by far. I can't really tell you that, hey, their offense as a whole is going to be legit. Their pitching as a whole is going to be legit. I love their bullpen. I think we've talked about that. I think that their bullpen of the three is a strength. No doubt about it. They're very deep in that bullpen. It's nasty. So if you go in that route, I'm completely with you. But I'm just going to go in general as a whole. This whole organization, we're going to get in this later, but I believe is the number one farm system in baseball. And some of the guys coming up the pipeline that are in this system, and a lot of these guys are 28 and under, and that's Tatis, Paddock, Mackenzie Gore, Trammell, Luis Patino, Trent Grisham, Jurickson Profar, Josh Naylor, Manny Machado. He's not that old either. Man, these guys are just absolutely loaded with young talent, all under 28 years old. And if they lock these guys up and build around all these young guys that they've got, man, whew, I'm telling you, I'm definitely calling that their strength. I believe that they've got one of the best left sides of the infield in baseball. We will talk about this maybe a little bit more later. I'm having a really hard time with it. The only one I can kind of think of that may give that a little bit of a run for the money is the team that we're going to talk about next in Colorado. That one is probably number one, with the Padres right now being 2. That being said, if Tatis comes to his full potential, they could become number 1. And you've got a lot of left side infields that you think of. You honestly think of Baez and Bryant too, and you put some guys up there like that, and Bogarts and Devers. So you got a lot of great shortstop, third base combinations there, no doubt. But this is definitely one of the top ones, and you can argue, like you said, that they're number 1. You really can. So there's a lot of talent here, a lot of young talent, and that left side of the infield is dirty, man. So I'm going to go with that as their strength.
So I'm going to rebut something you said. Now, not so much last year, but I actually like the Padres rotation. For a strength, I'm going with their pitching, just their overall pitching. I think Zach Davies is a little bit underrated. I think the Brewers thought they were selling high on him. He kind of came out of nowhere. I think he's somebody that can really help. Not a number 1, but a good 3-4 starter. I like Lucchesi. Garrett Richards is very talented. Dinelson Lamet is I had him last year for fantasy, man. He could rack up the strikeouts there towards the end of the year. And then they got probably the best pitching prospect in all of baseball, one of the best. And, I can just see them getting in that playoff hunt and releasing the hounds here a little bit. And of course, on top of that whole rotation, they got Chris Paddock, one of the best young prospects in all of baseball. And so I really like the pitching. Well, let's just jump in because I'm about ready to jump a question here. What do you think, DJ, is the biggest weakness on this team?
So let me straighten something out here a little bit about the starting pitchers. I like the 2020 rotation way better than I do the 2019 rotation. 2019 was kind of a different situation for them, but I 100% agree that 2020 is way better as far as their starting pitchers go. I'm not a huge fan of them. I do not think that they are even close to as bad as they were last year. I do not think that they will pitch as bad as they did last year with all the guys you mentioned. So I do agree with that 100%. But I do want to go with the pitching, just from the standpoint of I believe it's time to start proving it. Now, Paddock is a young guy, and I think he's going to be a real stud. And Lamet is 11 and 13 with a 4.24 ERA in his career. Davies is 44 and 33 with 3.92, and no, so they're okay. I'm not putting them huge. Probably a little bit middle of the pack, a little lower rotation kind of team. But David, I want to talk to you just this little second, kind of harping on this a little bit. I don't understand what the Brewers were thinking getting rid of Davies. I'm not real sure what they were thinking. And I know the prospects the Brewers got back were not really that great. I kind of think that the Padres made a steal here in getting Davies for the end of that rotation with the guys that they gave up. What do you think was the understanding of the trade that was made between the two?
Well, I think number one, the Brewers, as we covered in another podcast, did not have much young talent. And Luis Urias was one of the top prospects that the Padres had. And to be honest with you, they had a tailor-made place to put him. And I think the Brewers thought they were selling high on Davies. Like I said, he kind of came not out of nowhere, but he had his best season last year. And so I think in their mind, it's like, hey, we're trading a 4 or 5 starter for a potential player that's going to be here for a long time. So I can't really fault the Brewers, to be honest with you, but I think it's a steal for the Padres because the Padres needed an innings eater in that rotation, and he's a perfect guy to fill that role. And so, like I said, in the short term, it really looks like the Padres made out like bandits, but I wouldn't be ready to crown them the winner of that trade just yet, just because we don't know what Urias is going to be yet.
That makes sense. I mean, I agree. I knew that one of their prospects went back to the Brewers is supposed to be pretty good. But I think that the Padres, like you said, were set up to where if they got Davies, they could compete a little bit. And with a guy like that toward the end of the rotation, he's not a bad pitcher at all. And if he's your 4 or 5, you're in pretty good shape. So what do you got for their weakness, man?
Well, I'm still not sold on their hitting. So I think they're better. Obviously, the full year of Tatis is really going to help. I like Hosmer okay at first. They probably gave him way too much money. Obviously, they got Machado. But if the rest of that has a lot of question marks. Now, again, full disclosure, 11 games in, and Trent Grisham is like the top fantasy player in all of baseball right now. Is that going to continue? I don't know. I don't know what his background was. They got him from the Brewers, I believe, in one of those trades as well. But, you're dependent on a lot of young guys. Their catching situation is terrible. Their second base is still a big question mark. Obviously, Profar is not hitting. And so I'm going to say that the biggest weakness they have right now is probably their lineup.
Will Myers is really hard to figure out, isn't he, David?
Yeah, man. I don't know what happened to that guy.
I don't know either. And then he was down last year with 18 bombs and 53 ribbies and hit like 239. I just think that he's such a good talent, man. But I don't know what he's doing. He's not consistent in his career. It shows signs of great potential and just kind of. I really don't know what to think about him, to be honest with you. I don't know if he's one of those guys you hang on to or you kind of part ways with. He's really hard to figure out. If he's on, he's really good, but I'm just not seeing it, man. So I don't know. He's definitely a question mark. And like you said, Grisham and Pham out there in the outfield with him, that's not too bad of an outfield. And I love Hosmer. I mean, I think he's just a gamer, a big part of that Royals championship team. And I agree they gave him a lot of money. But, the Padres are kind of starting to show a little bit here that they're willing to spend some money and be a team. And, Man, me and you aren't used to the Padres really being contenders, man. In our lifetime, they just have not been a team that, statistically and over all the years have been any type of contender. The 98 World Series team is the only one I can really think of. And then 84 was a little bit before we could remember. So 98 is definitely that team that they had that you remember. And other than that, man, just not really too much of a contending franchise. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too, and just some weird things with them. And I think they can get there. I really do. I think that they're starting to go in the right direction. And I really like this team, and I just hope that they can keep building and become a contender every year in the NL West.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. The Padres are one of those teams, and I'm going to say this in the next podcast we're going to do too, that I guess I had forgotten how much I liked a lot of their players. They've had some really good players come through there.
Yeah.
And that 98 team, they got swept by the Yankees in the World Series and all, one of the best teams ever. But anyway, that was a great team. They've had a lot of real likable players. But like you said, they just haven't, done much with it. And so these next few years are going to be pivotal. Going back to Andy Green, I don't blame that GM at all for cutting bait because they were showing signs, man. And you don't want to pour cold water on it and hang with a guy that's just not going to do it. And so it'll be interesting to see what Jace Tingler does with that team. They're probably still, a good solid year away. But, man, the number one farm system in baseball or two by some – I mean, they're loading up, man, for this run. And if I was a San Diego fan, man, I would be super pumped to see what's coming down the line. And, honestly, I kind of made fun of the Padres when they signed Machado. It was just like, when they signed Hosmer, it was kind of the same deal. It was like, what are y'all doing? You're not ready for this. And then you get Machado, who one of the top players in baseball. But now I kind of see it a little bit. You know what I mean? It kind of gives you a little bit of hope. They saw these guys coming, and now – they got some stars. Like I said, that left side of that infield is as good as anybody's. I'm not so sure I wouldn't take it over anybody just because of the youth. And I believe Tatis is the real deal, MVP caliber player down the line. So it's a real interesting team.
Yep.
So, DJ, what do you think best case scenario for the Padres is this year?
Well, I really believe that there's 4 teams in this division that are going to compete, and I don't see the Giants doing anything. I think that they're definitely number 5. So throwing the Giants out, you got 4 teams there that are legit, I believe. And obviously I think that the Dodgers are 1 and the Giants are 5. So in the middle there from 2 to 4, you got some interesting things. You got the D-backs, you got the Rockies, and you got the Padres. And I think we talked about the Diamondbacks already, and I think that they're favorite for the second spot there. But, man, the Padres could sneak into there, and they could get a wild card on being the second position here. I really believe that. I think that's the best-case scenario for them. They're not going to pass the Dodgers. But to sneak in as a wild card in the second place in this division is very possible for them to get there. I really believe that. Garrett Richards is a guy you mentioned earlier, and his career is 45-39 with a 3.59. That's a pretty good ERA for a career, man. And he's one of those guys that could lead them to big things. And Joey Lucchesi is 18-20 with a 4.21. But like you said before, Lucchesi's got some potential too, and he's showing signs of being really good. And so with that pitching, as long as that pitching can do something, I really believe that's the key is the starting pitching, because I think they're going to hit a little bit. I really do. They'll score some runs. And that bullpen's nasty. So if they can get that starting pitching, they really can jump into second place. I truly believe that.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with you. I don't think they're going to pass the Dodgers this year. Now, give them a year or two. I'm not so sure. But I'm going to be honest with you, DJ. I think when we did the Diamondbacks podcast, I made the comment that they would be the second place team. I don't think it's going to happen, man. I think this team right here is. I really like this team a lot better than I thought I did. Like you said, with the rotation being much improved, the bullpen being locked down, they got Mackenzie Gore waiting in the wings. I do think they improved their offense a little bit, and I think the Diamondbacks could be fool's gold. They had some guys have big years for them out of nowhere. We talked about that in the Diamondbacks podcast. that they were early. That I think they kind of surprised their management. They were trying to tear down, and it's like, oh crap, we're in this thing. And so I'm not so sure that they weren't fool's gold a little bit last year. And so I'm like you. I think the Padres will be the second wild card, be the second place. They'll be the wild card team out of the West this year, and I'll be very surprised if they aren't. Just to be honest with you. So, what do you think worst case for them is?
Fourth place, I really do. You know, I seriously think they could fall anywhere between 2 and 4. I don't necessarily think that we're going to see a lot of these prospects this year. It'd be cool to, we're starting to see as it's starting to kick off a little bit here and everything that's been happening with a lot of injuries going on. Man, let me just start with something here. I wanted to throw up last night watching Soroka for the Braves. Haven't done that twice in my life. I know exactly what he felt. And I am not kidding you. I wanted to throw up, and I was sick for him because there's not much worse than tearing your Achilles. It really isn't. And he was just going to PFP. And having done that myself, I saw his Achilles roll up his back of his leg when he did it. And that's nasty, man. And, you feel like you can get up and you feel like you kind of got kicked in the back of the leg and then you fall back down, man, because it's just unbelievable pain. And the Braves are in a lot of trouble, just being honest. And, man, I just wanted to give him a second here and say it's going to be a tough 9 to 12-month recovery. You're going to battle a lot of mental problems with that. But I hope he comes back next year and fights his way back to the mound. But that's just something I had to bring up real quick. But yeah, I mean, they've got the potential to fall all the way to fourth place. I don't think it's going to happen. But the Rockies and the D-backs are solid, man. So it could very well happen to where they fall out of this thing. And we could see, without, like I was talking about, all these injuries that are happening and all this stuff going on, we could see more of these prospects with the Padres than we think. In a 60-game season, you really wouldn't think you would see all these prospects come up. But with the way people are getting hurt, I mean, there's a ton of injuries going on, and people are backing out of the season, and people are getting sick. And so, man, if all that happens, we could see some of these guys real quick here. And if they come up and they're good, man, woof, we could see them be legit contenders. If not, maybe they stay down in the 4 area and continue to with that number 1 prospect to just kind of sit in 4th place for a little while. But I think when you've got the number 1 system in the game and you finish 4th, you're going to be okay. You're still heading in the right direction.
So I think they could be 4th. I don't think it's likely, to be honest with you. The Rockies, and we're going to talk about them in the next podcast, but they have a great core, but they have no farm system and they have no pitching. I truly think the Padres are quite a bit better than the Rockies, actually. Yeah. Now, having said that, DJ, who's in first place in the AL West right now?
Right.
It's the Rockies. How that is, I don't know. Like I said, we'll talk about that more later. But I could see them falling to 4th, but like you said, it would be a rash of injuries, a COVID-19 problem. I just can't see this team below 3rd place. I just can't see it without something like that happening. They dealt with a little bit of injuries last year. Tatis was down right towards the end.
Yeah.
Man, that would really stink if something would happen to him and he would go down. That would be terrible. Or Paddock had an arm injury. So I think the only thing that's going to stop the Padres is injuries, to be honest with you. I think they got a really good thing going here. DJ, we've talked a lot about their farm system. Let's go a little more in depth with that. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of different things on their farm system. I was researching this. I've seen everywhere from the number 1 farm system in the world to the number 4 in the world. So, and everywhere between there on this team. So, man, are they loaded with talent. The number 3 prospect in all of baseball was the 3rd pick in the 2017 draft, Mackenzie Gore. Absolute stud. He won 3 high school state titles, which I don't take lightly, man. I really look at prospects, and I want to see, have they pitched in big games? Have they been in big games in their careers? Have they won big games in their careers? I want those kind of players more than guys that, don't know how to win or all about themselves and selfish kind of players. But, man, 3 state titles, I don't care what state you're in. That's tough to do. Very impressive. He's 6'3", 195. Eat a cheeseburger or two, man. Holy cow. But 21 years old, lefty. 243 Ks and 103 innings pitched. Only 12 home runs allowed, man. He doesn't give up the big ball. 1.005 whip. Rumors he could come up this year. Not sure if it's going to happen or not. Sits 93 to 97 with his fastball. Slider hits low 80s. That's nasty. A left-handed slider's gross. Rollins Chapman's a big slider guy. That's sick, man. If you got that and you're throwing high fastballs. Throws a changeup in a 12-6 curve. He's got a nasty repertoire. And if you've seen him pitch before, he has got a crazy high leg kick, man. That thing is way up there. So he's definitely deceptive too. It's his leg goes up there about as high as you're gonna see. It really does. And so I think he's legit number 1 prospect for them. And like you said, man, if you plug him into this team right now, you've all of a sudden made your rotation that much better. And I think he's ready. I really do. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with him this year.
Yeah, so I watched a lot of video on him today, and I'm going to be honest and tell you I'm not a big fan of the high leg kick. I mean, I know it's deceptive, but I think it can cause mechanical issues. DJ, I don't know if you remember, but when I came to Temple, I kind of had I threw across my body, which I didn't really know I did. And then the second thing is I kind of had this deal where I would kind of turn my back and trying to hide the ball a little bit. And, that worked some games. And then some games I couldn't find the strike zone because it was tough to repeat it. And so I kind of wonder the same thing about Gore. He's got Clayton Kershaw comps. And, man, if people are talking about you in the same sentence as Clayton Kershaw, you're the man. But I do wonder with that high leg kick, I think that's something that could, if he doesn't stay athletic as he is, as thin as he is, if he were to bulk up at all, that can really throw you off, man. And like I said, as long as it's working fine, we've seen guys that had weird windups that could repeat it. I think about old Hideo Nomo. What a weird windup. But, man, when he was on, nasty. So, I really like Gore. I'm hoping they bring him up this year because it'll make things so interesting if he's a true number 1, Paddock and Gore at the top. But a prospect I want to talk about a little bit, they got a catching prospect. He's a couple years away, Luis Campusano, but he was the California League MVP. He won their batting title, hit .325 last year with 15 homers. And the one of the positions that they're really struggling in is that catching position. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here. I accidentally skipped that question. But Campusano is probably not going to be ready this year. But, man, if they end up in that race, again, if he's legit, if he's for real, I mean, you got to think about it, don't you? I mean, you have to at least think about pushing all the chips in to try to win the World Series or at least get in the playoffs. And so I would keep an eye on him. And, dude, I can't believe that you forgot a legacy player in here. You know who you missed? Your boy Ryan Weathers. David Weathers' son. He's the 10th prospect, man. Dude,
what, is he really?
Dude. What's going on?
Ryan Weathers is David Weathers' son?
Yeah, you're supposed to catch this stuff.
Man, that one completely went over my head on that one.
He's the 10th
I didn't get the Weathers thing, man. I got that one went right by me, man.
He even kind of looks like David Weathers, but he's left-handed. Remember David Weathers was kind of stocky, 6'1", 230. And throws from the left side. Number 7 overall pick in the 2018 draft. He was the Gatorade National High School Player of the Year. So keep an eye on David Weathers' son, Ryan Weathers.
Wow, man. That's a good one. I'm surprised I missed that. Another prospect that they're real high on is Taylor Trammell, too, man. Holy smokes. He could be one of those outfielders that plugs in. You were talking a little bit about the outfield being a little iffy. If he could – I don't know, Will Myers, man, step up. because you got a guy on your toes, I think here, and so it'd be interesting to see what comes with him. But man, their farm system, you could spend a lot of time going up and down the line on those guys. They're legit, man. It's a lot of fun to see, and ooh, if this core can stay together, and like I said, a lot of these guys that are already up or under 28, like I was talking about, is their strength. And when you bring all these prospects in the mix, it'd be a fun team, man. It really is.
Yep. So the question that I skipped, and let's talk about it a little bit: position battles. We talked about they got some holes. So what's a position battle to keep an eye on?
Well, if Lucchesi doesn't step up, man, Gore could take him over. I think it's that fifth spot, and um, there's something to be said there for a guy when you got the number 3 prospect in all baseball breathing down your neck a little bit here. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe it's not Lucchesi, maybe it's Davies, or I don't know. I don't think it's Davies though. I think you gotta go with Zach Davies over Lucchesi. He's more proven, and you got Richards and Lamet and Paddock. I ain't moving those guys. So, the one guy I see out of those guys is Lucchesi. If he don't step up, he's gonna be out, and Gore's gonna be in, and
Mm-hmm.
that'd be your 5th guy. And Gore's not gonna be the 5th starter though if they bring him up. I got a feeling he's gonna climb the charts a little bit above some of these guys, but that's the kind of one thing I'm seeing that'll be an interesting battle as we progress here in this very short season.
Yeah, I would watch a couple positions, man, to be honest with you. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about Jesse being kind of the odd man out there because, like you said, you're not moving any of those other guys. But second base is kind of a mess for them. They traded for Profar. They've got a couple interesting players so far. In 2020, Profar hasn't hit as usual. Last I looked, he was under 100. Their other 2 options are Cronenworth and Garcia. Garcia, last I looked, was hitting right up around 300. Cronenworth is actually playing a little bit of first and DHing a little bit. And so I would keep an eye out on that. If I'm the manager, Profar's got a short leash. He just hasn't shown me enough over time. And I'd like to see one of those guys step up. And then at catcher, you got 2 young guys. Hedges, I believe, was the top defensive catcher in the league, or one of the top at least. They say he's the best pitch framer. But the dude is hitting 103 right now. And the only catcher probably worse is the guy backing him up, who's Mejia. And I think he's hitting like .95 last time I looked. And so Mejia is a switch hitter, so I don't know if they're doing the platoon thing or what's going on there. But, man, that's a big hole. Now, we've talked about this before. I'll take a catcher who's a stud on defense and can't hit.
Right.
To a point. You got to hit 220, 230, to hit your weight anyway, to stay in the lineup. And so I'd like to see one of those guys kind of step forward, and I'd like to see that second base situation cleared up a little bit.
Man, we keep coming back to Jerks and Profar, man. It's kind of a weird situation because I think it would look better in an A's uniform, which is not saying much because I'm not a fan of his either. But over Tony Kemp any day of the week and twice on Sunday, man. And I don't think he fits in very good here with the Padres. I just don't. I really think that they do need an upgrade at second base. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you, off the top of my head, on that prospect list if they've got a guy that's coming up from second. I know a lot of those guys I saw are pitchers and outfielders, and I'm not too sure.
In the top 10.
No second base type, no middle infield guy, no shortstop, because they're not playing shortstop for the Padres. They're going to play second. So they
got C.J. Abrams as their number 2 prospect. Estimated time of arrival 2022. He was the 6th overall pick last year, so he's a ways away.
And he's a shortstop?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's your guy you got to look at for second base then, because he's probably not close right now. But if Profar can bridge the gap to him and he can become the guy there, because nobody better be playing shortstop for the Padres the next 15 years the way this kid is. So you better find a different position, man, real quick. You better start playing some second down the minors. So yeah, that's very interesting to see. So hopefully they can find a hole to fill there.
So DJ, I know where this is going, but I got to ask it anyway. Who's your favorite all-time Padre?
So you might be a little surprised.
I will be surprised if – go ahead.
This is something pretty rare for me, man. But I am going with the closer, man.
What?
The greatest closer of all time.
Boo. Nope. Nah.
I knew I'd get you fired up a little bit by saying that,
Nope. Nope. Nobody's gonna watch this podcast, DJ, if they think you're dumb.
right?
Can't say dumb stuff.
I love Trevor Hoffman. He is by far my favorite closer of all time. And you know what's kind of funny that he is, because the Cubs have had like the best closers in the world go through their team with Eckersley and Smith and Suter. Just all those absolute Hall of Fame legit studs have come through the Cubs as closers. And man, my favorite of them all has got to be Trevor Hoffman. I mean, what a scary guy. Come down and throw 99 and throw the sickest changeup in the world right at your toes, and you're swinging like spinning to the ground like the Tasmanian devil on that changeup, man, because just absolutely nasty and bury it. And David, I don't know, man, as a hitter, my whole life, I struggled with two pitches. Number one is that high fastball. I can hit a high fastball, but if you throw it too high, you can get me out because I'll swing at it. And if you know that, you'll get me out. And another one is a nasty changeup. If you can throw a dirty changeup that buries, you can get me out as well pretty easy. And I hated the changeup, so I have a lot more respect for a guy who can come in and gas you and then just twist you up like that, man. 601 career saves. I can't believe it took him as long as it did to get in the Hall of Fame, which is stupid. 287 career ERA, 1,133 Ks. What a man! I just absolutely love Trevor Hoffman, and he would come in and the music would start blaring for him. You know, the AC/DC would come on and just be scared to death, man, because you knew it was coming, and not cool at all when you had to face him. So definitely Trevor Hoffman, with much love to Tony Gwynn as well, but not my number one all time.
So yeah, how crazy is it that really the two top closers probably ever? I have to think through that, but I couldn't really dispute that it would be Hoffman and Rivera. Really came with one pitch. I mean, with two pitches, a fastball. Now Rivera got to where he threw nothing but cutters towards the end. But you know, how crazy is that? You would think, you know, if you think of closers, you think of like shutdown strikeout pitches. Like I think of splitters, and I think of a guy that has just a killer slider. You don't think of a changeup as an intimidating pitch.
Yeah.
Man, it is. It can be. Because if it looks just like a fastball, you're screwed, man. You are screwed. And I mean, really, that's the way Rivera kind of survived. That cutter looked like a fastball until it was by you. And but I do remember that about Hoffman, man. That was like Bugs Bunny changeup, man. It would just drop. The bottom would just fall out of it. And if I remember right, Hoffman was a catcher coming up. You know, he wasn't a pitcher the whole time, or maybe a shortstop. I don't remember which. But interesting dude. But I got to go with your boy Tony Gwynn, man. I remember watching, you know, he was there through all the 90s when we were big fans and watching those all-star games. And the guy just didn't strike out, man. He just had some of the best hand-eye coordination ever. And only hit 135 homers. He was just kind of a slapper, but he was annoying. And so I got to read you some of this stuff, DJ. This is year by year, Tony Gwynn's strikeouts, okay?
Yeah, this is good stuff.
1982, 16 strikeouts. 83, 21 strikeouts. 84, 23 strikeouts. 85, 33. 86, 35. 87, 35. 88, 40. 89, 30. 1990, 23. 91, 19. 92, 16. 16 times in a whole year, DJ. That is nuts, man. And it wasn't like he was up there taking walks either. He hit 370 one of those years, man. 394 one year. The year that he hit 394, he only struck out 19 times. Amazing. Just amazing. And most guys like that aren't fun to watch. He was fun to watch. You just could not strike him out. So I love me some Tony Gwynn. You know, he wasn't probably the greatest fielder in the world and really didn't bring a whole lot else to the plate, although he did steal 40 bases one year. But, man, just the ability to just slap the ball around, that's amazing, man. I just really respect there's been a lot of great strikeout pitchers that couldn't strike him out. And so I love to watch some Tony Gwynn, I have to admit.
19 strikeouts in an entire season. Reggie Jackson would get that in 1 week, man.
Well, now it's all or nothing. These type of players don't exist anymore,
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. I heard them talking about it on MLB Network one day this past week, how the slappers are gone. I don't know if the shift has kind of taken that away or what, or just the advanced metrics. They know where you're going to hit the ball. Of course, Tony Gwynn could spray it anywhere. It just blows my mind. One of those years, an entire year, he struck out 15 times. I mean, that's just unreal. And Tony Gwynn was a great manager, man. He put San Diego State in the College World Series a few times. So, it was horrible that he passed away, but a lot of respect to Tony Gwynn, man. I love to watch that guy play.
I've seen a lot of videos of his San Diego State coaching. Got a lot of things from him, actually, to be honest with you. I got a couple games from him that are real fun for the high school kids they absolutely love, and I got them from Tony Gwynn, who implemented him at San Diego State. So it's really cool how you can learn from guys like that. And one of the things that's real sad is any young guys watching out there, man, that tobacco got him. It got him with cancer. So be careful. Don't do that stuff. It's not good for you. And he's the poster child for that, unfortunately. It cost him his life, and he just could not stop. And so very, very tragic end to his career. But, man, like you said, one of the best hitters of all time. You got to put him on the up there as a pure hitter on the Mount Rushmore, man. Unbelievable player. And Mr. Padre, I can't go wrong with it. I fought really hard with this one, but I had to go with Hoffman just a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hoffman was a good choice too. So
let's talk David, can we do one thing real quick? Can we go to the field here, because I got a little guest that wants to say something here before she goes to bed. So can we talk about Petco before we go to trivia?
Let's do it.
All right, so I want to know from you first. Have you ever been to first was Qualcomm / Jack Murphy Stadium that closed in 2003, and then Petco 2004 to present. Have you been to either?
Never been to either.
So July 31st, which is almost 2 years to the day, 2018, we went on our nice trip to Phoenix, LA, and San Diego, right? And why don't you tell David whose 2 autographs you got by the Padres that day?
I got Tyson Ross and Joey Lucchesi.
Joey Lucchesi.
So that one's Tyson Ross.
Awesome.
And then that one's Joey Lucchesi.
That's Joey Lucchesi. He's got a weird one, doesn't he?
He does have a weird one.
Looks like the same name twice.
That's awesome.
But, yeah, she did well at Petco as well, like she always does. She's getting autographs all the time. Why don't you talk a little bit about Petco? Did you like the San Diego field a lot?
Yeah, we had like the nosebleed seats. It was right above home plate. It was really cool. Like they had trying to remember. It was like this meal where you had like in a helmet where they give you a hot dog, a drink. It was like all these kinds of different things. It was just a fun experience. I mean, that whole trip was.
So tell me, Lindsay, how do you get these autographs? What's the key?
There's not really a key. I mean, I don't know. They just always end up coming to me. It's weird. I don't know. I mean,
you're just a magnet.
I guess, yeah. It's because they look like my mom, not like him. So.
That's a very good point.
Well, sometimes she's down there, like some of the ushers will be like, hey, they tend to kind of swarm to this one spot, because the ushers they know exactly where all these players will kind of go to and what their spots are. They kind of get in a routine somehow of doing that. And so they kind of tip her off a little bit, and she gets to that spot and sits and waits. And, we'll get there about 2 hours early before the game starts. And, man, she always scores, man. It's unbelievable. And she did Lucchesi and Ross on the Padres trip. So.
And then I forgot, but whenever we went to Chase Field that same trip, I actually had I'm trying to think. My brain's not working. Yes, Paul Goldschmidt. I actually got him that one time too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Your
that was
dad
cool.
really had the guts for that.
Yeah. But no, as she was saying though, Petco, man, I liked it a lot. That was pretty nice, man. It was kind of a shocker, really, to be honest with you, because you don't really think Petco Park. Oh man, I got to go see that. You got to go see that. And San Diego in general is just beautiful.
Yeah.
But when you throw in Petco there, it's got a nice view of the city, downtown area. Like she said, they got very unique food. We were up in the nosebleeds, and still, I like the seats up there. It wasn't bad at all. And one of the things I am a little bummed about is, man, they need to start getting some fans back in that place. It's not really packed, but I think with all the talent they've started to bring up recently, they're going to start to pack the place a little more and get some more people in there. So, yeah, man, Petco is definitely one you got to get to and see. A lot of fun. And they're very nice beaches in San Diego too. A lot of family things to do in San Diego. San Diego Zoo is absolutely awesome.
That was fun.
So a lot of cool things to do in San Diego. A lot of naval bases there too as well, protecting our freedoms and everything. So pretty awesome experience to go to Petco and watch those guys play. So
my understanding about San Diego is they like have the best weather of any major league city. I guess it's always just like in the 70s or 80s. It doesn't really rain there very often. I had a customer who moved there, and he just told me that the weather never changes. It's like between 75 and 85 all the time, and it hardly ever rains. So, again, if I was a major leaguer, I'd have to be thinking real hard about San Diego.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. It really is, because, I mean, who wouldn't want to play in San Diego all the time, man? Very good point. And that, you know what, I wonder if they use that to their advantage when they're talking to free agents. Hey, man, I'm playing San Diego. I mean, it would intrigue me, I'll tell you that much, no doubt, man. I'd rather go there than, anywhere up north where it's freezing all the time. And
well, I mean, I'm a huge Yankee fan, but why would you want to play in New York? Be honest, other than the history and all that stuff. But I've been to New York City. It's rough. I mean, it is rough. And like you said, the weather can be cold. I'm sure there's days in Chicago where it stinks to play baseball. I remember those cold early spring days in Chattanooga. You guys have that in May sometimes, and the wind's howling. So I'm like you, man. Give me San Diego anytime. Arizona, that sounds awesome. Any place that's got an air-conditioned stadium, man, I'm in.
Good stuff. Cool. All right, thanks, Lindsay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, dude, you got me some trivia. I'm going to have to admit I failed you on the trivia today.
Oh, come on. Yes, I do. I've got one. So this is actually surprising, and I guarantee you that nobody watching this podcast, if you're a Padres fan or not, can name who the all-time home run leader in Padres history is. There's no way. I'll put all four of your kids through college if you can get that. So
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way. There's no way you'll get it. I don't even know if you've ever – it'd be one of David's famous quotes. Never heard of him. So I will, however, ask you to give me 4 of the top 10 home run leaders for the Padres.
4 of the top 10. That's going to be hard to do. Fred McGriff? He probably wasn't there long enough. Adrian Gonzalez.
You got it.
Okay. Have we talked about any of them in this podcast?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
We've talked about 3 of them.
What?
Yeah.
Will Myers.
Yeah.
He's in there? No way. I wouldn't have thought that. Let's see here. Wasn't Ken Caminiti there for a minute?
Oh, yeah. Caminiti's definitely one of them.
Okay.
So you got Adrian Gonzalez, Ken Caminiti, and Will Myers. I need one more from you.
Let's see here. Benito Santiago didn't hit enough home runs. Dave Winfield.
Benito Santiago. That's a good one. Who'd you say?
Dave Winfield. He was a Padre for a while.
Yeah, yeah. You got it. Ding, ding, ding. There it is. Yep.
Did you say you put my kids through college? Did I hear that right?
No, if you get number 1. There's no way. I've never heard of number 1, David. Never.
Never heard of him?
No. Nate Colbert is the all-time Padres leader in homers.
He was the 1968 MVP. No, I've never heard of him.
Listen to this, though. This goes to show you how weird the Padres' history is. He has 163 homers, and he's the franchise leader, David.
What?
163 is number one, and it's Nate Colbert. Now listen to this. He played with the Padres for literally 6 years. Listen to these home run totals. 24, 38, 27, 38, 22, and 14. And he's number one all time.
What's going on with the Padres, man? Who knew?
The thing is, man, and Tony Gwynn is one you didn't mention here, but he's just there because he played with them so long.
Yeah, he
not a home run hitter at all. But I mean, you look at the guys on this list. Adrian Gonzalez was not there long. Phil Nevin, not there long. Dave Winfield played with everybody. Ryan Klesko was a Brave for a long time. Caminiti played with who besides
Astros?
Astros, bingo. Myers, he's probably going to climb the list since he's still there. Hunter Renfroe is on there, and he's gone now. And Chase Headley. Where's the history in this team, man?
That is wild. You know what they did have a lot of? I was researching a little bit today. They had a lot of good closers.
Oh, yeah.
Wally played there.
Oh, yeah. Goose Gossage.
Yeah. They've had a bunch of good
closers. Trevor Hoffman.
Yeah.
Nasty.
I should have come up with the closers, top 5 closers, see if you can name 3 of them.
No, but here they became a franchise in 1969. But, man, 163 home runs is your career leader? And I never even heard of the guy. I had to, look him up. I spent, 10 minutes baseball referencing him. I'm like, a franchise leader in home runs, and I have no clue. I promise you I know all the rest of them. I've at least heard of everybody else and his home run leader. There's no doubt about it. But I was like, the Padres, what? Who is this guy? How is it not Adrian Gonzalez?
Ryan Klesko made the list?
Yeah.
Come on, man. I don't even remember him hardly playing for the Padres. Obviously, he did, but it couldn't have been that long, right?
No. Maybe 4
That's
years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So DJ,
stuff, man.
Any Tennessee Temple Padres fans?
We got Nada, man. Maybe Donnie, right?
Donnie, last I heard, he might be in a nursing home out there. He went there to retire after he was in the Navy. So World War II was hard on him. So he may have been a Padre fan. We're not sure. Donnie, let us know, buddy.
We love you, man. What kind of fan are you, man? We can't figure this out.
Well, I'm kind of shocked, DJ. We've talked for an hour about the Padres.
We have. We made it.
Good show, fans. If you're the 12th viewer, DJ will turn you into a chance to win a brand new car. So we'll be tracking that. We'll let you know.
Oh, man.
All right, buddy. So next podcast is the Rockies, and we're 9 away now, I believe, from finishing up. And
after the Rockies, we've got 6. We're getting close.
We're 6 away. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's another good podcast. Tune in next time. Well, again, we'll be talking about the Rockies, and we'll see you then.
All right. Take care, everybody.